And welcome to the Barry Foster Show, now on YouTube, originating from the Ridge Floor Studios in the City of Charm, beautiful downtown Avon Park. I would like to remind you, if you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions for the program, you can put them in the comments right below us. Drop us a line at thebarryfostershow@gmail.com. You can make sure you check out our YouTube page every day. We're trying to put up new programming Monday through Friday. And subscribe to our YouTube page, please. Tell a friend. And subscribe to our Facebook and Instagram pages as well. That would be quite helpful as we push our way toward a couple of things we'd like to do. One is we're going to try to add a telephone element here so we can call in and have some of your calls. We're going to try to go live. And also to have some phone interviews. So in the studios again, John Larsen. Good to have you with us, John.
Good afternoon.
Yesterday we talked about the Highlands County Commission budget and some of the things that were happening here. But I didn't mention yesterday, and I did want to mention our thoughts and prayers go out to our friends in Texas and New Mexico. Terrible, terrible flooding out there.
Horrible. I mean, it's well beyond 100, with still maybe that many missing. And you look at it, and it's a kind of a mirror image of the flooding that took place in North Carolina last year after the hurricane, and it's just a huge disaster. And I listened to a little bit of the interview with the governor of Texas this morning, Greg Abbott, and of course he said that they're continuing to do everything they can to find the bodies of the people that are missing.
And the Trump administration has been very quick to respond to these things.
Yes, they have. Even though they've been blistered by the media. Trump has been blamed for the rainstorm, and it's just suicidal, some of the things that they say and do, when this should be a time for, I don't care what political party you're affiliated with, this should be a time when your concerns and thoughts and prayers are for the families and the victims.
And helping people.
And helping people in any way you can.
The media should be there trying to drum up support.
But even the media has been a big proponent of blaming Trump and the Trump administration for this thing, which is just absolutely insane and unforgivable.
Well, we have heard discussions in the past about weather being weaponized, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, we mentioned this earlier this week, has now submitted a bill to make it a crime to try to manipulate the weather.
And I think, from what I heard when this first occurred, was that they had been doing some seeding down in the Texas area. In other words, to try and make it rain.
Yes.
And so on. Was that a piece of this? Who knows?
I don't know.
I mean, who knows? And whatnot. But it's a tragedy beyond belief, and especially since in this occasion there were so many children involved.
Yeah, and that is just it's a horrible thing. I'm glad to see the Trump administration working hard to help mitigate the results of this disaster. And it'll be interesting to see that we have seen FEMA, when they have arrived in Highlands County for some of the bad storms here, have been anemic in their response and anemic in their ability to help. Supposedly they're going to be a lot better now. We'll find out if that's true. In fact, they're still paying off Hurricane Ian. 4 years later, Highlands County is just getting some of the money that the reimbursement money that was coming in. So we're hoping that FEMA and Donald Trump's response to real needs like this get better. And also the private sector, making it more attractive for the private sector to come in and help. And when we saw the hurricanes here, who were the first ones to help? The churches, the Salvation Army, the local groups and organizations.
Samaritan's Purse.
Yes, exactly.
Every disaster, Samaritan Purse is there. That's Billy Graham's organization, by the way, and so on. And there's a listing coming up this morning. I did hear that Home Depot, Walmart, and other mega corporations are contributing handsomely to the funding, or whether it's supplies or food or whatever they need, getting it down to those people.
Well, it's good to see the private sector ramping up and helping out in that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because government can't do it all. I don't care, even if it's a local, it can't. And sometimes it's just going to take the people, if you will, donating, to whatever the cause is that can help those folks down there.
Yeah, and I would like to see also, like last night we were Tuesday night we were at the meeting with Don Elwell, and one of the things that he was putting forward was there are committees that are open to citizens to get involved with. And you were looking at a homeless committee?
Yeah, and it happened to be Ingrid, and she's going to be one of our speakers upcoming. So I talked with Lori Herner last night, and she said, yeah, John, she said she would be glad to talk to you about that. So I'm waiting to hear. Also, I guess one of her things is they have a portable library, and she asked me last night if Ingrid could bring the portable library to the meeting at the Seabright. Absolutely.
Sure.
She just wanted us to see what it was and see what's available.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so I think she's going to bring that.
And I was looking at the affordable housing. I will tell you that around a quarter of a century ago, about 25 years ago, I put my name in, but I was rather outspoken on the radio, and my nomination did not did not make it because I asked hard questions, and they perceived me. When you ask hard questions, you're perceived as being negative. You know, yeah. And even Donald Trump, and we've talked about this, he will hire contrarians to come in to committees to look at the downside of everything, you know, a negative Nelly, to come in and say, well, if you do this, bad things, these bad, and if you plan for those things, you can kind of work in so those things don't happen. So I think it's good to have people who point to the opposite way, the opposite side of things. So, you know, I'm glad, but...
I was going to say and I've had some interest in, I see a lot of stories on things that are being done around the country to provide homeless shelters. And it's not these, although, you know, mega motel redo into home, that's fine. They're doing a lot of those now through Tunnels for Towers or Wounded Warriors, where they're buying these so-called abandoned motels, renovating them, and then they can put 100 people in there in this one facility, if you will, and everybody will have their own room and so on. But also a lot of people are now, there is a lot of different modular homes made for one person.
Tiny homes.
Tiny homes. And they're being manufactured on a bigger scale. Even Elon Musk, I believe, is involved in it. Those things are not that expensive. I'm talking $10,000 or less for one of those. Now, I know there are other people, and I think there's a lady here in Avon Park that is pretty big in the homeless situation. I believe she's Powell. Is that her name, Powell?
I don't know.
Okay, but anyhow, I think she's one of the people that's in charge or in part of this organization here locally to help find places for the homeless. But, you know, would it be possible or feasible for us to have a park, I'll call it a park, with these little modular units in it where homeless people could live? Don't know.
Yeah, with some kind of business or industry nearby where they could have a job and maybe work themselves out of that situation.
Anything.
And again, it's good to see people involved. One place that we need to see people involved, and you've done a great job in this, I've done somewhat, we've seen other people, and that is people involved in the election process. You know, and we're just listening to an interview with a guy from the Republican National Committee, the RNC, who's going to start this election integrity push. And the first call was to have people who want to make sure that the elections are run well, not only as poll watchers, but poll workers. And you've poll worked, what, 20 years anyway?
Well, a long time. Maybe not quite that many, but a long time. And yes. The other thing, there was a fellow back in this last election, general election in November, by the name of Scott Presser. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Anyhow, got long hair, okay? He wouldn't look like the kind of person you think he was, but he literally won the state of Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. He went out knocking on doors, having campaigns, everything in the Amish community, which are historically not voters. He got mega number of Amish people to sign up to vote, and so on. So it's and he was with Trump here a while back, and whatnot. I think he's either unofficial or official, you know, worker for the Trump administration, but his job is to go to these various states, campaign like crazy, and get people signed up to vote.
Well, yeah,
and he did a great job in the last election. Great job.
This election integrity push by the RNC kind of dovetails with Trump's national citizenship verification program. I think it's called Only Citizens Vote. And one of the things that they're going to allow now is the state can check their voter rolls against the Department of Homeland Security and against Social Security to make sure that the people who are registering to vote are people who are United States citizens.
Right. And so on. So I think it's one of the things that I really believe showed its way in the last election was I believe we had a lot better election integrity. Was it due to Mike Whatley and Laura Trump? I don't know the answer to that. They were certainly the head of it and whatnot, but was it just because they were pushing it? Were other people involved, like this Scott Presser fellow that I mentioned, and so on? But let's face it, for Trump to win all of the mega states, that was a shock. I think that was a shock.
The swing states?
That was a shock to everybody, because maybe they thought he might win one or two, but to win all of them, all five or whatever, that was a major deal.
Well, he learned from the first election, and he got boots on the ground, and he began. The Donald Trump of this second administration is a much different Donald Trump than the first administration. He's a learner, and he learned quite a bit, and he had his MAGA people, which may or may not be the Republican Party, after working to get him elected. And I'm hoping that this kind of thing, getting people involved in this election integrity program and county commission committees and things like that, gets people more involved, because, as you know, the Supreme Court has just ruled 8-1 to allow these massive federal terminations to take place. Okay, they overturned this Clinton-appointed judge, this Susan Ellison, and saying that her blocking of this was, quote, her personal view of the law, her personal view, and not the law. And that's what a constitutional republic is about, all the law. And this is going to go across a lot of agencies. And as these federal agencies go away, some of this is going to fall to the states, and some of this is going to fall to private sector organizations. As we talked about during the floods, I think it's better to have the people involved in taking care of themselves rather than the government being the overriding taking care of people.
Well, I'll tell you the other thing that I think is going to play somewhat of an impact on the next, especially the next general election, but maybe at the midterms too. Act Blue, which was a huge fundraiser for the Democratic Party, unknown to the people that supposedly donated, because what they did, they would donate thousands of dollars in your name, $20 here, $25 there. Unbeknownst to you, they used your name and whatnot and charged you, but that's where they got a large portion of their money to run their campaigns. That is being investigated now in the House. The actions of Act Blue, which is illegal. It's money laundering, because they're using funds from you, unbeknownst to you, in your name.
Well, we've seen the ads that said, did you know that you donated $20,000? And they go, no, I didn't. Oh, yeah. We have these donations in your name that were for $100 here, $200 there, $500. And I didn't make those.
Right.
And I think that under the Trump administration, under Kash Patel, and under some of the other people who have now come in under him, you're going to see some of these things reopened, including the first assassination attempt against Donald Trump.
Well, I think both the first and the second, because there's very little we know and very little we heard about the inner workings of that. How did that young guy, who obviously had some mental issues, how did he become an assassin? Someone had to lead him. Someone had to guide him. Someone had to pay him. Who was it, and why was it? We don't know.
And people like Alex Jones, who for many years was perceived as a kook, and they sued him for billions of dollars.
Yes, he did.
And he's now been proved to be right over and over and over again. And speaking of which, we talked about before we went on the air about this, but this whole thing about the Epstein list and how the official word is now Epstein killed himself, and there is no list. Now, Alex Jones and some of his friends are suggesting that Donald Trump has that list, and he is using it to purge the deep state out of their positions of power.
That may be the case, but certainly I, like a lot of others, I have my questions and doubts.
Oh, yes.
Because, like I told you earlier, there was a huge settlement by, I want to say, if I say Chase Bank, I could be wrong on the organization, I'm sorry, but they had to pay a huge multi-million-dollar fine all right, because they were money laundering for the clients of Epstein and so on. So they got caught in that. So that tells you if they were funding, all of these people were funding their money, through Chase or whatever it was, all right, there had to be some reason. And those people's names are on lists somewhere.
Yes.
Somewhere.
Yes.
And whatnot. So we'll see what happens, but I certainly hope that there's more to come on that, not just make this the final close.
Yeah, I think we have seen Donald Trump do many things, and things that at first they thought he was crazy, and then they found out he was right. And this ongoing thing with the tariffs, the on-again, off-again tariffs, he has been bringing more and more countries to the bargaining table because he has been able to leverage trade deals with these tariffs. I mean, I saw this thing, and it's true. If tariffs didn't work, why are 170 countries tariffing our products going to their countries? And Donald Trump is only coming back. He's not even coming out at the same levels that they're tariffing us, but he is bringing them to the negotiating table, because pretty soon they're not going to have access to American buyers, and that's really what they want.
Well, and a lot of these, like we mentioned the other day, a lot of these, like Laos and Cambodia, Vietnam, and so on, small countries, the American market is a big piece of what they take in, a big piece. So if you cut that piece out of their business, you're really going to put the hurts on those little countries and those manufacturers in those little countries.
Well, see, that's one of the things, and I have been trying to look and trying to find a favorable reports on the Big Beautiful Bill has been a difficult thing. But the Big Beautiful Bill did quantify a number of things that they have been trying to do in the United States under the Trump administration. One is the tariff deals, which has resulted in this great jobs report, 740,000 new jobs. I have a stalker, I have a left-wing stalker who is really unhappy. I said, can't you be happy that people are getting jobs and that American-made products are coming back? And we talked about this a little earlier, but we're going to try to hook up a phone feed so we can do a series on made in America products that are good for American for the American economy. And I'd like to start with one that's right here locally for us, Nucor. Nucor, which uses scrap steel to make rebar, which then they sell. Some of it goes overseas, and it's all made in America products. So a lot of his tariffs have resulted in kind of the rejuvenation of the made in USA products, and that's quantified under the Big Beautiful Bill, notwithstanding the opening up the energy, which is reducing the price of gasoline, which is, I think, going to make doing projects in America that much better.
I see this morning, it's Wednesday, the day after Tuesday, which is always Bloody Tuesday here when it comes to gas prices. I see a lot of their stations are less than $3 today.
Yes.
$2.95, $2.97. So, it did come down. Now, what will it do next Tuesday? Only the shadow knows.
Who knows? I would like to mention that Ridge Florist is made in USA. The products that they made are made in USA. 863 Designs, who've done our coasters for us, and some of the other things that out of Lake Placid, they're made in USA. In fact, on our coasters here, I asked Timothy if he would put on the bottom "no tariffs." And he did. He said, no tariffs, made in USA. Strangely warmed coffee, which gets their coffee from many different countries, but brews it and roasts it and sells it here. There are a lot of made in USA products. So, I mean, and I would be glad to do more of those kinds of things, because I think we need to, at this point in our lives, begin to turn our attention to made in USA products.
Well, I'd like to take a look at, since that was my background, take a look at manufacturing. And as I mentioned to you the other day, we have a pretty huge manufacturing operation out at the airport.
Yes.
And there are probably 5, 6, 7 different businesses out there that do make things here in the United States, and they're all manufacturers.
I was trying to get in touch with Andrew Bennett, who's spoken to us before about things. He is the heir apparent to be the new director out there when Mike Willingham finally decides to hang it up, and he's on vacation this week, but he's going to get back with me, because I do wanted to talk to some of the people there in
Sure.
The airport.
Yep.
Because we have some made in USA products in and around here, and I want to go throughout the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's an organization out in Vero Beach called Natalie's Orange Juice,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing we like best about it is when you look at the product list, it says product. It is made with oranges. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're over in Vero Beach,
Mm-hmm.
and so but they're available in the Publix supermarkets here. So we
Mm-hmm.
get that, and we're going to talk to some of those folks because I think it's very, very, very important for us to begin to turn our attention in that direction. But to get back here just for a second, we were talking about opening up the assassination attempts. I am seeing now that they're going to have a criminal probe of both former FBI Director James Comey and former CIA Director John Brennan for rigging the election. And I think that some of these things, as they begin to come to light, it's going to be interesting to see if they decide to throw other people under the bus.
Yeah, well, I believe that's going to be true. If the House, and they only have 18 months to go, so you
Yes.
guys need to crank it up. But I know there's a lot of investigations and committee hearings that are ongoing every day. We don't see or hear about all of them, but I do believe that as the House, and I'm sure that they're being prodded along by the president. Okay, come on, guys.
Oh, yes.
Get to the bottom line. Let's get these things uncovered. Gather the evidence you need to gather. Are there misdeeds done here? Are there people that can pay the punishment for those misdeeds? We need to push that so we make that happen, because if we get past the midterms and we don't retain the House, you know what's going to happen. And all of the work that's being done now will be shuffled off
It'll
to
come
Buffalo.
to a grinding halt.
It'll be gone, and so on. So that's why it behooves them in the next calendar year, because let's face it, the last half of next year, they're going to be campaigning full-time.
Well,
They're going to be campaigning full-time.
This is why I'm glad to see the RNC election integrity push
Mm-hmm.
and Trump's only citizens vote push, and where we're going to have to work during the midterms for people who are America First candidates, regardless of party. The America First, because we've even seen John Fetterman, who has come across the aisle to help out, because he is, for whatever else you can say about him, he appears to be an America First kind of guy.
I think so. I mean, although in the end, when the push comes to shove, he will vote with the Democrats.
We'll see.
Okay, he has. That's been his legacy so far, that he talks a lot about, and I don't believe in this, I don't believe what they're doing. That's all great, but when it comes to pushing the yes or no button, you got to start pushing the no button, okay?
And I think that some of this, and I'm not sure what the timing is going to be, because we know the wheels of justice move slowly, but how many people have said to you, this is not going to be real until somebody goes to jail? And they're screaming for at the top of it, they want to see Biden go to jail. They want to see Obama go to. They want to see Hillary go to jail. I mean, but I think they would settle for some of the people downstream. But it's not going to be real until they see convictions and consequences.
Yes, absolutely, and that's only true because we know, just as a common sense thing, when you sit back and listen and see and hear some of the things that have taken place that are outlandish, beyond belief, that are criminal, and yet nobody gets punished.
Yes.
Nobody suffers the consequences, okay? If that doesn't happen, it's like, hey, everybody just go about your merry way. That's okay, that's fine. So you've got to stop that, and people, you're right, people have to, and it's me too, I feel the same way. You have to see people being shuffled off to Buffalo in handcuffs with an orange suit on and going away for many months or many years, and so on.
And yeah. Trump has now also called for an investigation, and actually the resignation as well, of Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell.
Oh, yeah.
He's very unhappy. He says that he wants Powell to lower the interest rates by 3 points, and he says he believes Trump believes that Powell may have misled Congress in some of the things that he testified about making, I guess, the Federal Reserve. And there's nothing federal and nothing reserve about the Federal Reserve. That's a private corporation.
And the other thing is, they helped Joe Biden out a number of times, either lowering or raising, mainly lowering the tariff rate, or the interest rate, if you will. So they did that for Joe Biden Now, why will they not do it for Donald Trump when he says, well, we got to make sure inflation's under control? How much more evidence do you need? Do you need 6 years? Is that what you need in order to determine that? Inflation is down.
Donald Trump's not a member of the club.
No.
And they're throwing everything they can against him. And he is, but he's come back with a good crew. He's come back with a good crew.
Yes.
And people who are willing to help him, and he helped push the big beautiful bill across the finish line. He was on the phone calling people saying, "I need your help, Barry. I need your help on this." And they came through in the big beautiful bill because Trump's successes, although they're not heralded well, are great successes. His bombing of Iran and taking out their nuclear capabilities, and to this day, the ceasefire is holding. There is an uneasy peace in the Middle East. It's still holding. All right, that's continued to go on. His tariffs have not affected the country the way that the soothsayers said it was going to happen. In fact, we had, and I can't think of his last name now, but the economist who said that it was all these horrible things. Well, Trump may have been right. And he has been able to do things and make them stick. Alligator Alcatraz.
Well, closing the border was absolutely number one, because you had to stop that stream of thousands and millions of people flooding across the border, and that has dried up almost totally for the last couple months.
And now, rounding up of the worst of the worst and sending them to Alligator Alcatraz, which was a stroke of genius. Wouldn't you like to have the merchandise rights to all the Alligator Alcatraz stuff?
I'll tell you, you see what's on Facebook today? Facebook has hats and T-shirts out
everywhere.
Whatever.
They're everywhere.
Okay, everywhere. Yes, so you can buy all the Alcatraz shirts and T-shirts you want.
Oh my goodness.
Right now. Okay?
Today.
Yes.
I even made one up.
I would, if I was like Ron DeSantis, I would have been, hey, buy me some shares in that stock because I think it's going to take off.
Oh,
okay?
man. And I saw a Welcome to Florida. I saw a Welcome to Florida postcard. And it's got Donald Trump with the mirror shades on and a black T-shirt, and over the breast it says Alligator Alcatraz. Got the little logo there. I mean, it does as much psychologically, and he's told people. He says you better get out of the country now, otherwise that's where you're going. And for all the more they holler, the more people are in support of it. I mean, it is a great builder. His successes are such that it's hard to undo the kind of influence he builds with it.
Well, the thing and I heard a couple pundits talking about it this morning, the thing that was different about the budget that just passed, this is one of the very first times that presidential executive orders have ended up in a bill that got passed into law.
Oh, really?
Yes. So some of the things that happen in this usually are just an executive order. So when an executive is gone, so is that order, because it's undone by the next administration. In this case, some of those things were actually in the bill that got passed. This is what has the Democrats so frustrated, because now it's law.
Yes.
So you'd have to overturn that law in order to reverse that issue.
Yes.
Yes.
They quantified, as you said, the securing of the border, but also they codified the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. They codified that, and they're continuing their work, although it's not as well heralded since Elon Musk has left.
Yep.
But still, they're still doing it. The Iron Dome has been quantified in the big beautiful bill. The clean coal, opening up the energy, maritime dominance. What else? Mineral production, parental rights, and the ability for parents to have rights in schools. That's been a lot of this has been codified in this big beautiful bill. And again, trying to find what it is and an even-handed report, much less a pro-Trump report. But finding that stuff has been very, very difficult. I've been looking. I'm going to continue to look. We're going to do a whole program on the big, beautiful bill, I think, because there's plenty of stuff in there.
There's a lot of stuff to talk about, both good and bad. I mean, unfortunately, and as we talked the other day, and I mentioned with the feud between Trump and Musk now, which I wish would end. Okay,
yes.
Guys, put it aside. work for the common good of the country, okay? Starting an alternative party is not going to help the country at all. It's just going to further tear the country apart.
You know, I know that you think that it's going to pull from Republicans.
Oh, I do.
But from what I'm seeing, okay, and as it begins to unfold, this American Party that he has is really drawing mostly never-Trumpers, people who don't like Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And I hate to tell you, but a lot of those people are Democrats. I think he's going to be pulling rhinos out, and he's going to be pulling Democrats out. He's going to be pulling the dregs of the never-Trumpers out. But as Donald Trump continues, America loves a winner. America loves a winner. Mm-hmm. And so I think that I've been, for 30 years anyway, I've been thinking there's going to be a realignment of the party. And there could be a MAGA party and an American party, which would replace the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. I think that you may see it, interestingly enough, split along the lines of a single individual. And the idea is that Donald Trump loves America. And he may not be the most conservative guy. He may spend money that we don't really want to spend. But you can't argue that he wants to make the country great again. The Democrats now have aligned themselves with Iran. Oh, you know, they have aligned themselves with people who hate America, and that's why their numbers are dwindling. Even we have seen even some of the Democrats in their own party breaking ranks, if you will, or trying to make changes inside the party so those things don't happen. It's a very, very, very interesting time to watch these realignments occur.
Now you got Mondami running in New York City, who is an absolute full-fledged communist.
I heard last night on talk radio, there's a new movement called SaveNYC.com.
I heard it.
And they are going against this guy because of who he really is. And they're scrubbing the net like crazy, trying to hide who he really is. And as you once said, it's hard to beat Santa Claus. Yep. And he is a communist Santa Claus.
He is the top.
Everything's free.
Yeah, and the other thing about him, a little bit of insight too, and that is on his college admission, he put down that he was a black, okay, and
yes,
black whatever, which he's not.
A black guy, yeah.
Which he's not.
He's an African American black guy.
Very much like Obama, okay? I mean, very much. And I equate him to really Obama number 2. He's very slick. You listen to him talk, his words, phew, boy, sweet words, nice words. I like all that, okay? He's smooth, he's educated, he's articulate, and whatnot, but he espouses communism.
And these people in New York City, are they're going knocking door to door, mm-hmm. and they are they want to register 1 million Republican voters. I don't know that there's 1 million Republicans in New York.
Well, the greater state of New York has a lot of Republicans. When you get outside of New York and outside of Buffalo, it is Republican country. But unfortunately, like we've seen in a lot of states, the big city controls the final result.
And that was, not to get too far afield, but that's what the Electoral College is all about, mm-hmm. is so that New York and Chicago and L.A. don't run the country.
Right.
That all the states have the ability to have a say, so mm-hmm. that the American people, and not just the people living in the cities, have a chance to do this. The problem right now is, and could it be that once this guy gets elected and things, as Donald Trump might easily say, go to hell?
Oh yeah.
And he's not going to provide any help for him. He's going to let him go.
Right.
And say, this is what you voted for?
Yep.
Okay, fine. Enjoy it.
And I don't really know, although she's not said a whole lot, I don't really know whether the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, is really aligned with this guy. She's a radical, but I don't think she's as radical as this guy. So how much backing she's going to give him if he gets elected, all right, will be the question. I think the big push now, although there were 2 big money guys that came out yesterday, Wall Street guys that back him. Okay?
Oh, really?
So he's getting more and more funding, and of course, everybody else is trying to put their eggs in Eric Adams' basket and whatnot to see that he gets reelected. But he's going to be up against some money. Although Bill Ackman, who's one of the huge funders of Donald Trump, Bill mm-hmm. Ackman, all right, has said that he will give Eric Adams whatever money he needs. So he's got one, but the other guy's getting a couple of big money guys out of Wall Street, too.
And who's doing the voting? As we know, there have been illegals. It's been alleged that they are allowed to vote in local elections. And this would be obviously a local election.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to watch unfold, and it's just, I think that there's plenty to be happy about. There's plenty of things to be on guard about. That and I've talked to people now. Now is the time for us to get involved on the local, state, or national level. We talked about volunteering for local committees on the county level, but I think that there's plenty of room to worry about elections on the statewide level and on the national level. We're going to try to get some of those guests in to talk to them about those kinds of things. But I think that there are things that we should do. So, all right, listen, we appreciate you being tuned in. We appreciate all of our new subscribers. You've been listening to the latest edition of the Barry Foster Show, recorded here at the Ridge Floor Studios, located in the City of Charm, beautiful downtown Avon Park. If you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions for the program, you can put them in the comments below or drop us a line at thebarryfostershow@gmail.com. Check out our YouTube page at The Barry Foster Show Daily, as we'll be putting up new programming on a regular basis, and subscribe here at our YouTube page and join our pages at The Barry Foster Show on Facebook and Instagram. For John Larsen, Barry Foster, as we continue to look for truth, justice, and the American way, and we'll see you next time.